Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So, firstly, my apologies for not being able to make a video over the last couple of days. I've been pretty busy traveling. There's been obviously a lot going on with the crypto markets. Obviously, I'm not in my usual setup, so apologies about the poor camera quality. There's not a lot I can do. Um, Currently in a hotel with pretty poor desk and setup and things, unfortunately. So I'm going to try and get through this one because it's pretty late at night where I am here, but I wanted to sort of bring a video as soon as I could to really update everybody as to what's happened with the market over the last few days. In terms of my current outlook on the market, it has changed quite significantly. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about what I see happening over the next couple of months and really over the remainder of this year, and talk about sort of strategy, my personal strategy in terms of what I'm doing, how I'm positioning, how I've reacted to what has happened over the last few days, and obviously, the change in terms of my own outlook. So let's jump straight into it, and we're going to start off with Bitcoin. Bitcoin obviously being, the leader, the king, largest cap cryptocurrency. Try and get my headset properly adjusted. Doesn't help. Like bending down over this desk. Feels like it's slipping off. But anyways, sorry about that. So we're going to start with Bitcoin, and we're going to basically talk about where I see Bitcoin going. Obviously, previously, I had a path drawn in here, and I was expecting sort of end of February, March for us to come up to around about 117,000. I've actually deviated away from that view right now. So obviously, as a trader, you've got to be prepared to react to market data as and when you see it, and obviously new information. And look, I think because of the events over the last few days and the way that specifically the way the market's reacting to news right now, the market is just selling off, is using positive news basically as exit liquidity. Sort of big players are getting out on that news, and if they exit the market, that means they're pulling out the market, and at some point they need to get back into the market. But of course, they're not just going to jump back in at any price. They're going to be looking to get back in at lower prices. So that's why I think the market does come down a bit lower to bring those buyers back into the market. And I personally think that we're probably close to the end of this sort of sell-off in February. I think the February low may well be in already. What I see is probably a rally up throughout the middle of February, then a sell-off into the end of the month, maybe early March. I think that's when we get our next significant low, and that might just be a retest coming down to where we've come down to before, so around about sort of like 89,000, or it might actually be a move down to one of these levels here. Obviously, I've marked these out. We've got like 88.7, 86.6, and 85.1, which is basically untapped liquidity on the move up. So yeah, I think what this will do is right now we've seen a rotation out of altcoins into Bitcoin. Bitcoin dominance has been rising. There's this acceptance now that this is going to be a Bitcoin only cycle, that Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency with any value. And we're seeing altcoin holders just capitulate out of altcoins and into Bitcoin. And what that really does is obviously that then makes Bitcoin a crowded trade, because if everybody's capitulated out of altcoins, going to Bitcoin, started long Bitcoin, drop their altcoin longs, then obviously Bitcoin is then going to have to flush out those participants, that aren't sort of fully high conviction enough, and that are just chasing a quick buck, basically those kind of tourists, those people that come in trying to jump on the bandwagon. So I think those people do get flushed out before we go higher. And I think, a move below this low is definitely going to really sort of panic the market. Do we come down much lower? I don't see it. I don't see a catalyst for that. I think this is more going to be a liquidity move to take out positioning below 90,000. So, like I say, it probably comes down to one of these levels and then bounces quite aggressively. If Bitcoin is to remain in a bull market, and I don't see why it wouldn't, nation states buying it. David Sachs, the crypto czar, coming out and talking about a Bitcoin, sort of reserve. And yeah, just things are very positive for Bitcoin still. There's a lot. Of sort of positive sentiment around Bitcoin. Obviously, not so much on the altcoins, but I do think Bitcoin likely goes higher early this year, or sorry, into the middle of the year now. So really, we're sort of pushing this projection back by a couple of months. Instead of getting up here in March, we're saying we're going to get out here in May. That means sort of February, March going to be sort of consolidation sideways, and April, May are actually going to be our expansion as opposed to February, March being our expansion. So, um, if we look at what we kind of did last year, then we see something which was a bit more drawn out. I think this will happen faster. This is obviously sort of 6 to 7 months. I think this will be sort of 3 to 4 month consolidation. Obviously, you can argue we start in November, so November, December, January, February, and then start to make our way out in March. So, yeah, they're my thoughts for Bitcoin. Not really too much else to be said there. I'm going to keep this fairly sort of high level in terms of, I'm not going to be digging in too deeply to actually liquidations. Actually, I haven't looked at these for a while. Let's have a quick look at liquidation heat map on Bitcoin whilst we're talking about Bitcoin. Kind of makes sense to do that, right? So let's see what the liquidation heat map is saying. And just got to wait for this to load up. Okay, so there's liquidity to grab over the last 24 hours above price. So maybe we do get a push up to 100K. And maybe, like I say, the downside, certainly for the first half of February, is done. Obviously, bull moon going into the middle of the month. We have seen this trend of markets sort of going down into the end of months and early in the month, putting in bottoms within the first week of the month, and then things starting to mark higher throughout the middle of the month before obviously moving down again towards the end of the month. So yeah, the pattern seems to still be intact, and that's obviously what we've witnessed coming down early in the month, and now looking to consolidate, filling in some of the inefficiency from the obviously the liquidation event, if you want to call it that, on Bitcoin. Obviously, there was a much bigger one on another crypto asset, which we'll get onto very soon. But yeah, most of the liquidity has been taken to the downside, potentially coming down a little bit further to fill this wick in, and then we look to grab liquidity on the upside back towards 100K. And like I say, I think at some point we come down towards the end of the month, early March. And yeah, potentially this all happens. Obviously, the next FOMC meeting is going to be next month. And I think, at that point, that's really our next opportunity to get a catalyst to drive us higher. Obviously, if there's talks about moving away from quantitative tightening, shifting back to QE, or if there's talks about rate cuts being on the table, or being sort of forming in the Fed dot plot. Obviously, they didn't release one at the last meeting, but if they release one and we see like there's 2, 3, 4 cuts now being priced in this year, then that's obviously going to sort of bode well for cryptos. And of course, you've got to remember that they're going to be led by the data. So we're going to see what inflation does over the next couple of months. We're going to see what the employment's like. And obviously, if unemployment, sorry, is starting to increase, inflation started to come down. Both of those are going to be, catalysts for then the Fed to go a bit more dovish and probably send prices higher. So that's Bitcoin. Okay, that's my preferred path right now, and I'm fairly confident that we get, like I say, some sort of flush of the 90K level back into the 80s, and then that's what we need then to sort of get going to the upside again. So moving on to the problem child right now, and that is Ethereum. Obviously, Ethereum's been a painful one for many people, myself included. I was positioned very, very heavily on leverage on Ethereum longs, sort of like in around these levels here, like low 3000s, came all the way down to 2000 or close to 2000, certainly on Bybit, traded down to around 2100, back up to 2500. I said that's where I wanted to get out. I wish I'd obviously held it and waited for the back test of 2,800. But yeah, obviously we had the back test. People are looking to exit, understandably so. Ethereum has completely lost its narrative as a fun chain to use. It's slow, it's expensive. People are not using Ethereum anymore to speculate on meme coins. They're using Solana. Obviously, we do have Ethereum-based meme coins, but Solana is the casino, and there's other chains. There's obviously other chains that are a lot cheaper, faster, better for sort of retail DeFi, and yeah, speculation seems to be sort of drying up for Ethereum, and people are just not really buying into what Ethereum's offering right now. Um, and that being said, I do see a bull case for Ethereum, and I'll get into detail as to why I see the bull case soon. But certainly in the short term, I'm thinking more chop, more consolidation. Like I say, this probably coincides with Bitcoin sort of coming down for another retest maybe this month, sort of bouncing towards the end of the month. This probably needs to be shifted over slightly because, again, I think towards the end of the month we actually start to make our way down, or early next month we start to make our way down. So, maybe this kind of rallies to around about like the 22nd of Feb, and then we sort of get this sort of move lower again to like retest these lows. So I'm not expecting I'm not expecting Ethereum to just rally sort of straight up from here. I'm thinking we've probably traded sideways for a few weeks. A lot of people have been saying like, buy Ethereum now, like, all in, like these are the best prices you're ever going to get. Like we're going to send to the moon tomorrow. No, that's not how these markets work. And, a lot of people have been spooked by this move. A lot of people will, still be in large Ethereum positions that they no longer want to hold anymore. They want to rotate into other assets. Maybe they want to get themselves out of crypto. They've had enough. So, of course, Ethereum probably comes down to around 2,100, 2,200, sort of back up, higher low again. And then what we'd be looking for is a slightly either, you know, sort of sorry, lower high again. What we'd be looking for is either a slightly higher low or even an equal low, or even a flush. Doesn't really matter, but I'd be expecting probably a couple more drops down on Ethereum, just because I don't see this market going higher anytime soon for the next couple of months. So, because where's the liquidity coming from? Who's actually going to buy this thing right now? I think, for buyers to step in here, they're going to need to be sort of attracted by lower prices. So I've got, three main targets for Ethereum. We either come down here to just under 200, 2,500, which is, sort of this ascending trend line support we've got in here. And I think we've got a longer term Fibonacci. So it's basically our 50% level from swing low to swing high for the for this sort of bull run so far. So, that's going to be a level of interest where buyers might step in. That's 2,500. If we lose that, then you're looking, so, we might do something like this, bounce. But I think at some point we come and we fill in all of this wick, and obviously that takes us down to around sort of 2,200, give or take, sort of a bit. So yeah, I think we probably get something like this. That'd be the next level of interest. If Ethereum really really wants to, sort of cause some more pain and completely bleed out, then we could get a flush down as low as like 1,800. I think would be the absolute lowest I could see this market going. Why don't I see Ethereum sort of breaking down further and just coming all the way, sort of back down to basically like bear market levels? A couple of things really. Firstly, we do have an ETF. We do have inflows into the ETF. We're not seeing a massive amount of outflows. It is mainly buying that is coming in. So we have some buying pressure. It's not we never had that, in previous years. That's been something that obviously we've only really had from last year. So I wouldn't expect us to be taking out the lows from last year. That would just make no sense to me. Obviously, these are levels pre-Trump coming into office as well now. So yeah, I mean, like, it's a big endorsement of crypto, big endorsement of Ethereum. It would make no sense for me for us to go below these levels. Obviously, I'm expecting at some point there to be a Fed pivot and for people to look to take on risk as interest rates come off and people start to speculate more and the markets go more risk on, you'd expect Ethereum to be a benefactor of that. So that's one reason I'm bullish on Ethereum is just, the macro, potential macro developments and outlook going forward. Obviously, the endorsements from sort of Trump's DeFi project, their biggest holdings ETH, I think you're going to get that is just a big advertisement. That's one of the best advertisements ETH can have is the fact that the president's company is actually buying ETH. It's going to sort of pick up some sort of interest from sort of big buyers out there. Obviously, yeah. So ETFs, obviously endorsement from sort of high level, and also the fact that I think the ETF. There's been some talk in the past about the ETF not allowing staking, not allowing yield. I think now we've got a new SEC, then they might actually get the green light to actually add yield to the ETF. If they add yield to the ETF, well, we know that Wall Street and TradFi really, really like yield. I mean, literally, they have entire asset classes, money market investments. They've got, the bond yields and bond funds, sorry, and they are completely based on yield. It's like you take out a bond because you're going to get the yield. Obviously, you might get a discount to par, and you might be able to actually make money on the value of the bond. But really, you're looking at what is the yield that I'm actually getting for holding that bond. And I think if you put Ethereum alongside Bitcoin, and then you say, well, okay, Bitcoin is a better store of value, it's got better tokenomics, but actually you're getting the yield with Ethereum, so that loss in terms of supply inflation because Ethereum is now inflationary, then you're actually sort of picking up yield to offset that. So in a way, that could be interesting. And if the ETF gets that, and the ETF should have that because, that is something that every Ethereum holder is rewarded with. So, if you compare the ETF to just buying Ethereum yourself and going staking it with a validator, then you're losing out as an ETF holder. So for the big money to come into the ETFs, I think that yield has to be added. So that really, I think, is the major catalyst. And certainly, if we come down here, we get sort of like a bit of a risk on pivot in the markets due to the macro. We see Bitcoin start to fly back to all-time highs. Ethereum starts to, then get some more discussion around yield and things like that. Then I think Ethereum could really start to mark up very, very quickly and likely go to new all-time highs. Maybe still by the mid part of this year. But like I say, everything's for me has just been pushed back by a couple of months, and obviously this is a big breakdown, and it's going to take a bit of time to recover. So I'm not in a rush to jump back into trades here. I'm personally looking to add in at these levels. So obviously these boxes levels I've already mentioned, and like I say, if things get really really ugly, then my worst case scenario around 1800, and that is just like long term like trend line going all the way back to like previous sort of market from 2020 prices. So yeah, that's Ethereum. And don't for a second think we can't go down to these prices. People at 3K didn't think we'd come down to 2K, and we have done. So, what's another sort of 400, $500 lower to, really sort of fully shake the market out. So that's Ethereum. I wouldn't ape in. I wouldn't rush into this, but I'm still bullish. If we look at Solana as well, then Solana, similar path really. Everything's been pushed back by a couple of months. And like I say, this is like obviously a clear rejection of the highs. It's interesting, we're starting to see more news, more chat around Solana getting an ETF and potential approval incoming over the next few days. And Solana is just bleeding, and it looks like it really wants to fill in this wick here, so down to around about sort of 180, maybe just below, and then possibly that's a bounce area. If we make a lower high from there, then likely, in my opinion, that we're going to come down and test ran into the 160s and basically flush the liquidity below this wick, and that would then set us up, I think. And of course, all this would happen would coincide with Bitcoin flushing the 90K level, Ethereum retesting down towards 2000s. And yeah, like I say, in terms of bullish catalyst for Solana, obviously in terms of new bullish catalysts, it's really just the ETF. But again, a bit like Ethereum, I think there could be conversations around Solana getting an ETF and then staking rewards getting incorporated into the returns of the ETF. And I think that would be really bullish for Ethereum and Solana, and potentially that is when we start to see alt season. So I've heard nobody else talking about this, by the way. I might be way off the mark, but obviously, you know, it's my idea, it's something I'm thinking about, and if it does play out like that, then I'd like to think you heard it here first. So let's see how things play out. But like I say, I can see Solana hitting higher prices into the middle of this year. When enough pain has been felt and enough damage has been done and enough people have lost conviction in it, that's likely when things turn around. I think we're close. I think there's still a little bit lower to go, and I still think we're in a bull market. I just think this is a big washout and a big reset, similar to what we saw in the middle of 2021. If we just go back to Bitcoin, then yeah, sort of taking you back in time to 2021, we saw this, big flush consolidation. I mean, this was a lot bigger. This was a lot, sort of bigger, scarier, a lot worse. Like people trying to compare like January from last year to this year. Obviously, we're just really seeing an extension of that sort of price action. So I wouldn't expect us to come lower. But that's what we're seeing on Bitcoin, and it's like this is what we're seeing on the altcoins, and there's this divergence from Bitcoin and the altcoins, which is really getting people to capitulate on the alts and start to call for a Bitcoin only cycle and no alt season. So yeah, I think we're getting close to you know a reversal in terms of the altcoins, just purely from the fact we seem to have seen capitulation, and right now we're seeing like depression, we're seeing anger. I've spoken to a lot of people today just about the markets, and the general feeling is that we're not going to get an altcoin season. This time is different, and people are either capitulating or close to capitulating, or just having to, completely walk away and detach themselves from the market to basically cope and deal with it. Like I say, it's too much for a lot of people right now. So, if you're locked in, if you're sticking around, if you're still watching my videos, congratulations. You are definitely in the minority, and that is the place to be. That is, it's the few that tend to get the most rewards. So, yeah, just stay locked in. Obviously, Bitcoin dominance coming up. Sorry, Tether dominance showing rejection here. So this is good. I do think we can spike a little bit higher, and this could be a little bit more painful if we sort of drag this over to actually connect these 2 weeks. That first week, you can see potentially we could actually come up a little bit higher and tag that trend line. But you know, that's what I'm looking for on tether dominance. But overall, expecting things to come down lower. I mean, could it be we're seeing something closer to that? Potentially, but I'm not a massive fan of diagonals on everything, especially when they don't really line up. But yeah, potentially we're seeing this kind of, you know, in a way, sort of equal lows, but lower highs. I mean, this is pretty much a bearish chart. So yeah, struggling to go higher. Eventually, I think we break down on tether dominance, which would be good for alts and all of crypto if money's coming out of tether. And obviously, this is the one that is really causing the pain to altcoin holders, is Bitcoin dominance now breaking to new highs for the cycle. And yeah, this is what is really causing a lot of people a lot of pain. And I have heard some people talk about potentially we're going to come up into the 70s on Bitcoin. So we'd be looking for a move. Let's just draw this on here. Potentially we're looking, for a move up close to these levels, and some sort of rejection up here. So certainly if Bitcoin works its way down to 90K and Bitcoin, sorry, altcoins took another tumble, then we might see something like that sort of play out, and eventually, you know, we get our beloved alt season, and it comes yeah, probably throughout the later part of this year into the start of January. So I think that's what people are that's probably the way that this goes now, based on everything that's happened over the last few days. So yeah, let's see if that plays out how we think. Let's leave that path on there for now. One of the other majors that we have been following on this channel that's really been struggling is Pepe, and I'm thinking if Pepe loses this ascending trend line, probably comes down to this sort of 600-ish level, and find some support there. Of course, it might just start to sort of bounce here if we get back above this 1000 level and start to establish ourselves here, then we could say that that's the low. But if Ethereum's going to come a bit lower, and Solana's going to come a bit lower, and Bitcoin's going to drop below 90K, it's hard to see Pepe not coming a little bit lower here. And what have I done there? I mean, I say a little bit lower. Actually, it's not a little bit lower. It's quite a lot lower. It's about 35% lower. So, you know, if you're in Pepe, I know I'm in Pepe, a lot of Pepe. I've had to make the tough decision. Do I hold? Do I sell some? Or do I sell all? I've actually decided to sell some here. So, just in case we do go lower, obviously if we bounce, I can start to get back into positions, between 1000, 1200 if we actually start to break above and show some, more bullish structure. Of course, we might just go sideways, but it's likely we do come down to this level, and that's why we'll be looking to re-enter Pepe. So things are really, I mean, it's really late where I am. I'm super tired. You can probably tell I'm low on energy. Yeah, I'm just exhausted with the traveling, but dedicated and trying to make sure that I'm not leaving you guys in the dark for too long. One positive, dollar is starting to reject. So if dollar starts to come down, it's hard to see crypto and Bitcoin going into like a full-blown bear market with the dollar falling. Of course, they both could go down together, but it's unlikely. So I think that this move does play out in the dollar over the course of this year, and it might not come off straight away. We might chop a bit longer, but I do think this comes down, and I do think we go back to risk on later this year, and I do think Bitcoin sees all-time highs again later on this year. Ethereum probably sees all-time highs later this year, Solana as well. So, you know, right now, sentiment is completely shot. It is like the bearish I've seen, most bearish I've seen it, I think, ever in a bull market. I never remember sentiment being this bad. I mean, total market cap looks like it might want to come down to this 0.5, which would be, from where we are here, would be like a 12.5% move. So that could coincide with, like I say, one more flush on Bitcoin, and Ethereum and Solana retesting their lows or going a little bit lower. That probably takes us down to that 0.5, backtest this all-time high properly, and bulls and buyers start to step back into the market and take us higher. Total three as well. Total three probably fills in some of this wick, and then starts to hopefully turn around. Maybe this coincides with Bitcoin dominance topping, dollar coming down. I mean, that is the next shift that I'm seeing in the markets. So yeah, what I want to say is all hope should not be lost here. And I know it's very hard, and I know everybody is telling you like it's over, and they're capitulating, or at least a lot of people are, a lot of smart people are. And I think those calls will only get louder if we do something like this. And I think at that point, it's going to be time for us to, really consider the bottom being in, and for us then to likely get going back to the upside over the rest of the year. So I've covered everything I wanted to cover on this video. I hope that's been useful. Obviously, disappointed that things haven't played out how we expected them to in February, but you have to adapt as a trader to the latest market information. You can't just be completely sort of blind or put your head in the sand and just blindly continue with the same approach or the same, looking for the same outcome when it's apparent that that is no longer the most likely outcome based on the probabilities of where things are likely to go going forward. So I think this is the most likely outcome. Of course, we could do something different, but this is what I currently see for Bitcoin over the next few months. And obviously, I've shared my thoughts on Ethereum, I've shared my thoughts on Solana, and also the catalysts that I think will take both of those assets to all-time highs later this year, and probably also makes for a reversal in Bitcoin dominance. Also, we're seeing Ethereum come into really, really key support against Bitcoin here. So if you look at this, let's go on to the weekly. If you look at this, it's basically like one big range, Ethereum BTC, and you see like obviously rejection at the top of the range, lower high coming all the way down to the bottom of the range and looking to find support here, and then probably sort of run back up later on this year. Potentially we don't get all the way back to the high of this range, but even if we came up to this 0.06, then that'd be a 2x on Ethereum versus Bitcoin. But like I say, there needs to be a catalyst for this move to take place. And like I say, I'm thinking the ETF staking could be the one. So that's enough of me rambling. I hope, those thoughts help. Like I say, I'll be back on with the sort of morning streams as well going forward over the next few days. I'll try and jump on tomorrow, with my depleted setup and share my thoughts and get back with the regular updates. And we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. All hope is not lost. Like I say, I think a little bit further down before going a lot higher. So a bit more pain before we get to where we want to get to. And of course, like a lot of people were talking about de-risking in May, selling may go away, and people were talking about front running that by maybe de-risking in April or March, and actually people have de-risked in December and January, and it looks like going into like March, April, May, we're just not going to really have anything to shout about, any big profits to take. So I think there's going to be more people looking at exit over the next few couple of weeks at least, and then I expect most of the damage would have been done, in terms of like the price correction and also like in terms of the time correction. And then hopefully the market starts responding better to positive news again, and we can find ourselves at higher prices later on in the year. So I'm definitely going to finish it there. Thanks a lot for watching. Smash a like if you enjoyed this one. Hit subscribe if not done so already. And I will talk to you all again soon.